What's up guys, macadii here. Now today I'm bringing you guys the first battle of the week 8 of the IEP League, where I was against Violet Venoshocks. Now this was definitely a battle that I was both looking forward to and also dreading at the same time. I was looking forward to it because I knew this was going to be a really tense, really scary battle, because she has one of the scariest drafts in the league, considering she managed to pick up both Mega Metagross and also Mega Gallade, both of which do a number on the Venoshock core, and also speed tie with Mega Latios. And Mega Latios does kind of struggle outside of maybe Shadow Ball to KO these guys. That was definitely very scary. So alongside that as well, she also had the access to Hydreigon and also Thundurus T, both of which were very powerful special attackers that Umbreon could kind of handle, but it was still, I don't know, Focus Blast especially on the Thundurus T was going to be something I'd have to really watch out for. And then alongside that as well, she also had the Clefable and also the Empoleon, which she ended up bringing as her core. So she's got physically defensive Clefairy, she brings almost every time, and also specially defensive Empoleon. So in terms of the things I decided to bring, I knew that while Clefable was a very good physical wall, if I brought a lot of physical attackers, I could overwhelm it relatively easily, and all of my mons that were physically offensive had a way to sort of muscle around it. So first of all, we have the Bisharp, which almost OHKOs after rocks. I think has a very good chance to OHKO with the Iron Head, because this is Life Orb Bisharp, and Bisharp was definitely one of my win conditions that I knew was going to be extremely useful for this match, because it OHKO'd Mega Metagross with a Sucker Punch, and also did about 70 to 80% to Mega Gallade with a Sucker Punch, and OHKO'd regular Gallade as well. So I had access to Low Kick for the Empoleon as well, which did about 70 to 80% I think, if it was specially defensive. So this thing was definitely a really important mon. Alongside that, I had Donphan as well, whose main task was first of all to set up rocks, but also it could take a hit from either of the Megas, even with rocks up, and OHKO both of them as well. Because once the Megas were down, that was her only form of priority here, which meant that I could then use Hitmonlee here, who is the Endure Lychee Berry set, to then set up, get an attack boost, and then sweep with reversal from there. The only issue was I had to weaken the Clefable down to a point, but if it was not unaware, I was doing about 60% with Poison Jab and about 40% if it was unaware. But if it was unaware, I will be in a much better position to whittle it down, because I could Will-O-Wisp it with my Dusclops, and my Dusclops completely walled it. So in terms of my defensive core as well, I had a Umbreon Dusclops defensive core, which was designed so I could switch into both of the Megas. So if the Mega Metagross was out, Umbreon pretty much handles that because they're both physically defensive. Also, the Dusclops is physically defensive as well, and that means I can be switching into both of those. I had to fear the knockoff, but I knew I could then fire off a Will-O-Wisp from there, and if those guys are burnt, then that was going to make a lot of difference in this game. Alongside that as well, even when I was physically defensive, I could take some good hits from Hydreigon. I think only Dark Pulse really did a significant amount of damage, about 50% to my Dusclops, and I knew this was probably going to be her Scarfer, so I could always switch out into the Umbreon from there and take the hits absolutely fine. The final one was my other win condition, which was the Heatran, which I knew every time this Clefable was coming out, I could bring in Heatran for free. This was scarfed with Overheat, Fire Blast, Lava Plume, and Flash Cannon. Now that may seem like a really weird set to run, but what I wanted was the Overheat was going to be used near the start potentially to sort of very much punish any opponent. Every time I come out, something is going to get hit massively hard, and especially if the Clefable was going to go for a Wish or something like that, then I could definitely get a really good hit off from there, and hopefully OHKO them on before they then benefit from the Wish Pass. The Fire Blast was also used so I could then continually sweep through, rather than having to switch out from there, and just keep momentum going in that aspect. And then Lava Plume was going to be for late game, in case I didn't want to risk any misses, and everything was whittled down to a point where a Lava Plume could KO. And then the Flash Cannon finally was to muscle past the Clefable. So that was the team that I decided to run, and what we're going to do is we're going to start up with the battle right here. So I'm just going to click Start Battle, and we're going to run through this. So I decided to lead off with Bisharp here, because I had a feeling that the Empoleon was going to be leading, and I could low kick this. Skull did about 50% if I remember rightly, and if it did burn me, I had Heal Bell on the Umbreon, worst comes to worst, and getting that out of the way would mean Heatran would have a much better time, but she ends up leading with the Thundurus. Now, I knew I could do 92 to 98%, I think, if I remember rightly, so I couldn't OHKO this, or at least I had a very, very slight chance to OHKO. So I really, really didn't want to risk taking that damage, and I knew I had Dusclops in the wings. She would probably be going for a Focus Blast here, because I could probably take a Thunderbolt and or even a Volt Switch, and also she would be switching here because she wouldn't want to take a Sucker Punch. So I decided that switching out was probably the best bet, and Dusclops was probably the best one to go into here. So I go out into my Dusclops here, as she then reveals the Grass Knot. Now, I did a calc on this afterwards, and this revealed that this Thundurus was Specs, which is really, really important, because every time this decided to go for a Electricity move, I could bring out Donphan and set up rocks, or even punish something else with a really, really powerful EQ. I forgot to say, I had the Gunk Shot on there, which did about 70% to the Clefable, so I wasn't walled by the Clefable either. So she wouldn't be able to bring that in. An EQ and a Gunk Shot from there would be able to KO that. So she ends up switching out into the Clefable here as I get the Willow off, revealing the Willow, and also showing here that she is unaware. So I'm able to get my free switch into Heatran here. Now, this is the bit which was a bit sad, because she went out into the Metagross and my Fire Blast missed. And so at this point, as you can see, something very sad happened just there. What happened was then, I got a little bit mad by that, and I made a really, really stupid misplay. Considering I had Dusclops in the wings that could just wall this guy to oblivion, I should have just switched out. But this Metagross, well, I did the calc, and this Metagross, if it was Assault Vest, I think it had about 60% chance to OHKO this. It was just max HP invested, max attack invested, which I assumed it probably was if it wasn't the Mega form. And also, this was an opportunity to take out the Mega, so I probably shouldn't have done this. In hindsight, I got a bit worked up, shouldn't have done that, and that's definitely something I need to remember for the future. So as you see, Fire Blast doesn't kill. I got a really, really low roll on here, I think, and she is able to then KO back with the Earthquake. But this is good news, though, because it means that actually her one of her priority users is almost out of the picture now, which is what I wanted. And if I can get Rocks up as well, I can kill that on the switching, and that's gonna be dead from there. So she ends up switching out into the Thundurus here. As I go into Hitmonlee to get the Mach Punch off, it was the only real way I could get a really good hit off on this guy without taking any damage at all, because I didn't really want this Metagross to deal any damage to me, because I assumed it was probably max attack. So I do go for the Mach Punch here, and I go back out into Dusclops, because I know I can take these hits, and she is really not going to want to go for any sort of electricity move with my Donphan still alive. So I go for the rest here to get myself back up to full, as she goes back out into the Clefable. Now I really don't have too much of a switch, so I decide to make a bold switch out into Bishop here. I do take about 50% from the Clefable with Moonblast, and I figured it was worth doing that to get a little bit of switch initiative here. So she does go for the Wish here. Now, in this position, she had a few options. She could either Protect here to heal back up to full, but I knew after burn damage, I would be able to take it out with an Iron Head from there, so that wasn't going to be a problem. But I thought, on her team, what is going to be something that's going to be extremely threatening, that Bishop with an Iron Head won't be able to OHKO and she can heal back up. Obviously, first suggestion would have been the Empoleon. Now, the Empoleon, I wouldn't be able to KO it afterwards, but with a low kick, but I'd be able to do a really good amount of damage, so I wasn't too worried about that. The one I was really predicting to come in was the Hydreigon. So I decided to make a bit of a bold play, and I went for the low kick here. And she goes out into the Hydreigon as I get the low kick off, KOing that Hydreigon straight away. And that was a huge, huge game-changing moment there, because now the Bishop had almost free range to do what it wanted to do from now. All I needed to do was get a bit of damage on the Empoleon, and a little bit of damage on that Thundurus, and then if this was Mega Gallade, just try and neuter this somehow, and then from there, we would definitely be able to get a sweep going with Bishop. So I switch out to Dusclops here as he Megas up, goes to the Drain Punch, because that was his only real play, because a knockoff would KO. So she goes for the Swords Dance here, as I managed to get the Sleep Talk Willow, which was really, really important. Really, really, really good here. So she goes for another Swords Dance here, so I go for another Sleep Talk just to try and burn a few turns, because I knew even if she has the knockoff, I can definitely take one of those, and a Seismic Toss is going to do enough to start whittling her down. Now, at this point here, I knew she was in a position where she couldn't afford to overpredict, because she needed to take... This is her one way to reliably take out my cores. So I knew for a fact she was going to go for probably a knockoff here. So, because she was going to go for a knockoff, I went out into the Umbreon here. As she ends up going for the Shadow Sneaks. That was good. I was just whittling this down with burn damage. From here, I knew she wasn't going to switch, so I went for the Protects. The burn, she needs those Swords Dance to actually do any damage at all. So now it's down to 3%. And I knew here she could not afford to Shadow Sneak or knock off here, predicting the Dusclops, because she needed to get a Drain Punch off to get some HP back. So I decided here to go out into the Dusclops. And luckily, I make the right prediction as she goes to the Drain Punch, and I get to KO her from here. So that's the Gallade out of the way. Absolutely excellent. And the Thundurus is now in a close sort of range where I should be able to KO with Sucker Punch from there. I think I do 82 to 90 something. So she goes down to the Clefable. Bit of a questionable play here, because I'm able to then get out into Bishop for free. Goes back out to the Thundurus. I decided to take the risk and go for it. I had a really, really good chance. It was sort of 80% at the very least. And so I go for a low kick here to get some damage off on the Empoleon, because at this point, even if my Bishop goes down, I'm pretty much guaranteed to win from here. So I go out into the Donphan here, because I know I can take a Scald. Even if I'm burnt, I can still KO this Empoleon, and that was the main thing. So I take out the Empoleon here, and I still have the Mach Punch for the Hitmonlee in the back. So I decide to go out into the Umbreon here just to preserve some differential, because differential can be important, especially leading up to the playoffs, so I can get the 3-0. So I decide to go for the foul play here and KO the Metagross from here. So an absolutely excellent game, really, really scary. Definitely my biggest mistake was getting angry and trying to KO with that Heatran. I really should not have done that. But luckily, in the end of the day, Bishop really, really pulled through for this match. So I hope you guys enjoyed the battle. Definitely one of the best battles I've had in the league. It was so tense, and I had to work so hard for this one. So I hope you guys enjoyed the battle, and I will see you guys at the next one. macadii out.